Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, guys. Arman Tsarukyan versus Dan Hooker is officially confirmed for UFC Dubai, and in the co-main event also we have Ian Gary versus Bilal Muhammad. And this card is honestly like these two fights, they are absolutely stacked because both of them are basically title eliminators, because if honestly, first of all, I'm just really glad that Arman finally accepted the fact that he won't get a title shot by staying out. I'm glad that he has finally been humble. He has humbled himself. I'm very glad because of that. And Dan Hooker is obviously a very hungry fighter, but more than anything, Dan Hooker is finally making his return. He was supposed to fight Justin Gaethje in UFC 313, but that obviously did not happen. Now, more than anything, I'm glad that Arman decided to put his ego aside and actually accept this fight in order for him to get the title shot that he obviously deserves. And on the other hand, we have Bilal Muhammad versus Ian Gary. Now, this is basically matchmaking perfection, honestly, because if Bilal wins, then he has beaten Ian Gary. Ian Gary has been on a tear because I know he lost against Shafkat, but hey, that was on 2 weeks' notice, and you have to understand, like, that fight was, like, honestly, it was very close. Like, in the fourth round, I think, like, Ian almost submitted Shafkat Rokmanov, and that was an amazing fight as well. Like UFC 310, I believe it was. And also a few days ago, he beat Carlos Prates. Before Carlos was undefeated, and Carlos is obviously a very strong fighter. Very great fighter. He obviously did what he did in UFC Abu Dhabi a few months ago, I think. But Carlos Prates, he's obviously a dangerous welterweight. Like Carlos Prates ain't some random normal unknown guy. Like he is a firefighter, honestly. And like, I'm just glad that, like, these types of high level matches are actually being made, because honestly, I did not expect Bilal to do this quick of a turnaround. And obviously, in UFC 310, what is his name, Ian Gary obviously replaced Bilal Muhammad for fighting Shafkat Rokmanov. And Shafkat is obviously, he is somewhere. He's definitely somewhere. He's alive, I'm pretty sure. But more than anything, Shafkat is Shafkat. But this, like, this event is honestly like such a great, such a great card, because these fights will determine basically the future of the respective divisions. Because these two fights will basically determine the future of welterweight and lightweight. These two fights will basically determine the future of welterweight and lightweight, because as I said, both are title eliminators. And like, let's just say, if somehow Dan Hooker beats Arman, which in this fight I don't think it will be close. I think Arman Tsarukyan easily submits Dan Hooker. But if somehow Dan Hooker beats Arman, doesn't matter if it's just or not finish, Dan Hooker is a top contender. Like, he is the number one contender. Now, the thing that I'm most concerned about in this fight is, I don't want Ilya to wait around for until Arman beats Dan. I'll be honest with you. Ilya is obviously a very unactive champion. We all know that. But this time, like, Ilya in his previous few fights, he hasn't been injured that much. Against Charles, he basically took, like, I think maximum 10 shots. Yeah, significant shots. Maximum 10. So he isn't injured. Like, he doesn't have to wait around to recover. I feel like the Paddy fight should happen ASAP at this point, because like I hope Dan does some damage to Arman to the point where Arman can't do a quick turnaround to fight Ilya, because I'm not saying Ilya is scared of Arman or that. That's obviously bullshit. Ilya did not give Arman the title shot because he didn't deserve it. Simple. And the UFC obviously said that Arman doesn't deserve it. But Paddy versus Ilya, this is such a super fight. Honestly, like, yeah, Ilya probably knocks out Paddy easily, but still you have to understand, Paddy is basically double Ilya's size, and the run that Paddy has been on these days, it's absolutely insane. So yeah, I feel like that. Paddy versus Ilya, this is a super fight, and this is a no-brainer. Like, that moment after the International Fight Week, when Paddy and Ilya faced off, that's just maximum promotion, to be honest. And yeah, I feel like that fight should happen ASAP, as quickly as possible. And Arman versus Ilya should not be next, and Ilya should not wait around that much for this fight. And when it comes to Bilal versus Ian, this, as I said, an absolute super fight. Both these basically we have two main events. This is basically a double main event card, because Bilal versus Ian is obviously an absolute, as I said, an absolute firefight, and Ian definitely deserves this. After tearing through the welterweight division, not the top contenders, but after destroying Carlos Patles, he definitely deserves this. Anyways, that's my thoughts on it, guys. You guys make sure to watch, guys. See, and inshallah, I'll see you guys next time. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.